LessonsLearnt. I'm Sherry, and this is your Wednesday video. I have a video every Wednesday about some sort of sewing or quilting topic, and then also on Mondays and Fridays there are two different shows there that you can watch from this channel, and just hit the subscribe button. And if you have been subscribed and you see the word subscribe on the screen anywhere, you've been unsubscribed. So touch it again and change that bell to black, and you'll be notified of all of the videos on the channel. 3 videos per week. Alright, this week we're talking about a new sew-along that appeared in the recent American Patchwork and Quilting magazine. This is the June 2025 issue. You'll want to run out and get this, or get a digital version online so that you can sew along with us on this sew along. This is put on by the magazine, and I'll just read a little bit about it. I'll put a picture here of what the finished quilt will look like. This is a pre-cut friendly sew along using 10-inch squares. So if you have a 10 squares, a layer cake, whatever the name may be, 10-inch squares, you will need a package of those, or you can cut from your stash 10-inch squares. Also, it says here that the staff members of the magazine and fellow readers, May 16th through June 26th, will be making Pick and Mix, that's the name of it, by Pam Sewell together. I don't know that I'm pronouncing her name correctly. For added fun, participate in our Facebook Quilt Along group, where you can share pictures of your project, ask questions, and meet quilters from around the world. So if you need more details about this sew along, go to allpeoplequilt.com /pick and mix. Pick and then capital N and then mix. Pick and mix, just like it shows on the picture that I have posted there. So you'll see on this appears on page 16. That's the picture that I have up right now. And the next page from which I was just reading, page 17, you will see the schedule. So let me put the schedule right here so you can see what's going on there. This will start May 16th, 2025, and that is the end of this week. It is on Friday. So between May 16th and the 22nd, we're going to gather and cut our fabrics. Today I'm going to be talking to you about different fabrics you might want to put together for your pick and mix quilt. Some different options that you might want to consider, some suggestions of maybe what not to do, and things of that sort. Week 2 will be assembling corner and side units. Week 3 is assemble the blocks. Week 4 is make the triangle, squares, and sashing units. Week 5 is assemble A and B sashing strips and block rows. And week 6 is assemble the quilt. So by June 26th, you will have a complete quilt. So that's 6 short weeks to have a really cute quilt. Alright, so what are we going to do? This week it says that we're going to gather and cut our fabrics. So now I'm going to throw up on the screen the materials that we need, along with some other details about this. It says the finished quilt will be 70.5 square. However, if you go over to page 22, you will see some other options for smaller and bigger quilts. So if you want to go to that chart and do a bigger or a smaller quilt, you'll need to cut according to those instructions. So this is for the 70.5-inch square quilt, which is what I'll be making, and each finished block is 12 inches square, it says. It says the yardages and cutting instructions are based on 42 inches of usable fabric width. That means width of fabric without the selvage, you need to have a full 42 inches. So if for some reason in your stash you have some old-time 36-inch wide fabric, that's not quite going to work, or at least you're going to have more of it. Most of us don't have any of that anymore. It says the fabrics that are used in the quilt that I showed you in the picture is the Julia collection by Crystal Manning for Moda Fabrics. So Julia, if you have that layer cake in your stash, you're going to get this exact quilt. Now, on with the yardages. It says we need 2 7/8 inch yards of cream tone on tone. Now, that is the area that is around the colored part of the blocks, of the 12-inch blocks, and also the little sashing areas between the triangles that you see around the blocks. So it's also asking for 32 of your 10-inch squares. Okay, so if you're using that layer cake or a layer cake similar, and you can use any layer cake, I'll show you what I'm going to use. You need only 32 squares out of that 40 or 42 square package, and you're going to want to choose medium and dark. So you would just go through your layer cake one piece by piece and pull out the mediums and the darks until you have 32. You're also going to need 1 5/8 yards of cream and black print, and that is the print that you see in the picture. That is for the little shoe fly blocks and the border. So you see those little shoe fly blocks in there, and it looks like it's done up in a newsprint type of fabric. You're going to need 1 5/8 inch for that. Yards, 1 5/8 inch yards. And then you'll need 2/3 of a yard of cream and black stripe for the binding. And if you look at the picture, the binding is a striped binding. Of course, you don't have to use a striped binding, and you don't have to use that color. It's all going to depend on what fabrics you choose. It needs 4 1/2 yards of fabric for backing if you're using 45-inch fabric, and then it says you'll need at least a 79-inch square of batting. So we're not going to get into the quilting aspect of that, but if you're collecting things up and you want a complete kit before you even start, then you'll want to pick up that batting. So let me go over to the cutting table. I'll show you what I'm using, and I'll show you some other options you may want to use for this quilt to give a totally different look to it. Alright, let's get started. I have here my 10-inch layer cake, and I have some low volume, which is actually solid, and then I have some print for those borders and those, what are they called? Shoe fly blocks. So the first thing that I need to do, I'm going to have that picture on the screen again there where you can kind of follow along with me. I'm going to be pointing to different things in the magazine illustration, but the actual bigger picture will be on the screen here. So you might look and see where I'm pointing, plus refer to the bigger photo of it. But if you look here, you see that your main colors that are in your quilt are coming from the mediums and the darks in your layer cake. Now, my particular layer cake that I have has quite a few darks in it. As a matter of fact, all of these could be eliminated, and probably these, and just use everything from here over going that direction. These are a little bit light here, but I think that'll be okay. And then also, if you notice in the picture, some of the centers, which is where the blocks, those little center blocks will come from your layer cake prints, are pretty light, very light. But there's just a few like that, and so I think I'm, well in range by going towards this part of my layer cake. So I need to get 32 out of there, 2, 4, 6 that I may not use, 7, and then I have 42. So I'm probably even going to still have to eliminate something out of this. So I'm in good shape on this one. Now, on my, let's calling it here a is calling it a tone on tone. That's the 2 7/8 yards tone on tone for the blocks and the sashing. And if you look at the photo again, that's going to be all of your areas around your block that's not the newsprint. A tone on tone is basically the same color on the same color. And I'll show you some examples of that. This is a tone on tone. You see the floral print that's in that, but it's white on white basically. And here's one that's musical print. That is a tone on tone in a very creamy tan sort of way. And then here's a really light antique white with white print on top of it. That's what you would call a tone on tone print, or a very low volume print that you would use around your squares there in the plain spaces. I am using a solid. I'm going to use a solid mainly because that's what I have available. I don't have these wonderful options. I don't have enough of them because it's calling for 2 7/8 yards. So that's out of the question for me unless I went and bought something like that. And I'm trying not to do that. I'm trying to use my stash. So I'm using my Riley Blake putty, which is just kind of a very light peach in a way. I mean, if you first look at it, it definitely looks like just an off-white, but it tends to pull out some peach colors from the prints. So I'm going to use that as my plain tone on tone around the blocks. Now, for my shoe fly blocks and my border, I'm going to use this newsprint. It's not really newsprint. It kind of is. It's got a theme to it. It's lemons, oranges, everything citrus. And I'm going to use this. It does have this green color to it, which is going to make it show up more than what these will. These are going to actually pop a little bit off of those sides of those blocks, but in a kind of subtle sort of way. So if you definitely want to stick with the subtlety of the cream or tan newsprint, you probably need to go towards something like this, even a little bit more busy than that, or something like this in just a cream or a white. So that's some options for you on your border. If you wanted to go totally a different way, which you certainly can, you can take this and also change out your layer cake to something totally different. It could be something light and floral. It could be something bright and neon. You could take your Tula Pink or your K Facet prints and do this, and then just do the subdued areas on the outside here. If you want these shoe fly blocks to show up, all you have to do is add a medium color, medium or above, medium to dark color on those. So, you know, any sort of bright color or medium to dark color, they're really going to pop out. So if you want those to stay subdued, you're going to have to pick something subdued, like is in the picture. But it is going to make these blocks look bigger. Right now we're focusing in on the 12-inch block, right? Each one of these blocks. If you add these in with a more bold color, it's not going to look like a 12-inch small block throughout. It's going to look like a bigger block. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can absolutely do that. So not only do you not have to use the fabrics that were used here, but you can just kind of go in a whole nother color direction with it as well. So I'm going to get started cutting mine out according to the the materials list and the cutting the fabrics on page 18, you'll see where your fabric cutting starts. Can't show you that. You have to have the magazine to be able to do the sew along. So either, like I said, go to a store that sells magazines in your area and pick up this issue. That's, again, the June 2025 American Patchwork and Quilting. This starts on page 16, and you can go from there, or you can go right now to your computer, your phone, your iPad, whatever device you have that has internet access, and download a digital version for a small price. So this is what we're going to be doing for the next few weeks here on the channel. I would like for all of you to join in on it, and all of you that like the looks of this project and want to try it, and I'll try to help you with some tips and tricks along the way as I run into them. And for now, I'm just going to get started cutting because this starts on Friday, and you know what? You can't get started soon enough. Okay, I have my 32 squares, and I'll tell you what I did. I ended up putting one of each of these prints in, none of these three, and yeah, that's what I did. I didn't do any of these prints, and I only included one of each of these. So I have all of these in, and I did use this one, this family here, and of course all of these are pretty dark, medium to dark enough. So these definitely would probably be okay, but I think I'm just going to stick with what truly is medium and dark in the layer cake. So I have my layer cake worked out, so I can put that aside, and there are my 32 squares. So now what do I need of this? I'm going to go ahead and get a straight line here with my rotary cutter and my Olfa mat and ruler, and that gives me a good place to start. This print is a little bit on the older side. It's a Michael Miller, and it's called Carte Postale. And so if you have this in your stash, you might. I think it was an end of bolt type of thing where I have several yards of it, so I just cut off the amount that I needed, and then I'm going to cut from that. So from this, I'm going to need, it says cream and black print, 1 5/8 yards for the block and sashing. Alright, let me get to cutting this. For your smallest squares in this print, you'll need 6 strips of the size that it indicates to cut this down into these blocks. So 6 strips. Okay, so when you cut these 6 strips, you're going to wind up with a few extra than the quantity that's mentioned for the pattern. So you can go ahead and pull those out, or just leave them in and discard them later. Use them in your 2.5-inch bin for scrap quilting, for leaders, enders, whatever it may be. It's just like 6 or 7 of them. I can't remember. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting my cut pieces and my layer cake on here. This is for the border. This is for another section. And then there's a whole bunch of these. So I'm going to put that on there, and then continue with my, what they're calling tone on tone, and I'm using a solid. So I'm going to go ahead and cut those out, and there's a bunch of different ones. So I will see you back here in a second. Before I continue with my solid, I'm going to go ahead and cut these up. I have some things I would like to tell you about this part of the cutting. So I'm going to leave this part for another day, since I have a couple of days before I have to have this finished, right? Actually, I have a couple days and a week. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about this. It says to take out 16 and cut a certain number of different sized squares out of those, and then you take your other 16 and you cut a different size out of those. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of mix and match here what I want to do as far as that goes. Kind of want to, if there's 2, I want to do, like for example, I have these 2. basically I'm splitting this 32 stack in half. So some of them will be the side rectangles, and some of them will be the center, and some of them will be the small 4 squares. So I kind of want to get a mix there on that. So I'm going to go ahead and split these in two. If there are 2, then I'm going to put 1 in each stack. If there's not 2, then I'll have to make a decision on, you know, which stack it goes in. It really doesn't matter, you know, the layer cake coordinates, so it doesn't really, you know, matter a whole lot what position all of these are in. So, you know, like I say, if there's 2, not a big deal. If there's just 1, I'll have to choose. So I'll just split them up equally here. There we go, 16 and 16. So this stack has a set of measurements to be cut, and this stack has a different set of measurements to be cut. So I'm going to go ahead and cut those and then get back to my solid. For now, I'm going to close this video out, and I'll see you back over at my sewing desk. Alright, I've got a head start. It's only Wednesday if you're watching this in real time. So Friday, this starts Friday, so you have 1 week to cut out your pieces. Like I say, I'm a little bit ahead now. I've got a few more days and an entire week until we come back to week 2, which is assemble corner and side units. It could possibly be a separate video for Wednesday, or it could be included in a Monday quilt chat. We shall see. It just depends on, once I get to making one of these little sections here, if I feel like I need to do a little bit of teaching with it, then I will make a video for you on that. Alright, I hope you join me on this sew along. I'm really excited about it. It's going to be super easy and super fun and super cute. So we will see you soon. Bye.